We now go to Bell Ribeiro-Addy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Universities and Colleges Union have rightfully argued that there is no evidence to support the notion of a free speech crisis on campus. In 2018, the Joint Committee on Human Rights concluded that there was no wholesale censorship of debate, so why on earth are we here today? The government want us to believe that they're engaged in some liberal defence of freedom of speech, and it's a complete farce. The bill today is in fact a threat. It tramples on students' unions' autonomy, it overturns students' unions' long-standing no-platform policies, it narrows the legal definition of academic freedoms, and it fails to address the real threat to campus free speech, the ever-failing prevent duty, casualised employment, and insecure research funding, and of course, this government. This bill is yet another part of this government's authoritarian agenda, and if you want any immediate proof, it's almost unique in the breadth of its provision. For example, rules on judicial review state that if someone wants to challenge a decision of government, they must have standing, meaning that they must be affected by the decision they challenge. But this bill requires no standing, and any person, any business, any campaign can sue. What a free-for-all that will create. Where are the safeguards that the Minister spoke of earlier? Madam Deputy Speaker, I hope in my short time in this House, I proved that I am a civil libertarian. I was also a full-time National Union of Students officer, a liberation officer in the union's anti-racism, anti-fascism convener. I held its long-standing no-platform policy and I defended it against attack then, and I'm proud to defend it today. But I can't tell you how much it irks me to find myself making the same arguments I made 10 years ago, and worse, not in the student campus or student conference, but in the House of Commons. Further evidence of how regressive a decade of Conservative government has been. What the government needs to realise is that whilst we decide here who should be allowed on university campuses, that for many students studying at colleges or universities, these campuses are their homes. And what's possessed the government to put demands in law that students must allow anybody, even fascists, into their homes, their safe space of living and learning. We routinely saw that whenever speakers who espouse fascist views were even promoted as coming onto campus, racist and homophobic attacks against students increase. Now, the Minister said in his opening, of course, it will not allow Holocaust deniers on campus free reign. But this ill-advised bill doesn't realise that over the years, no platform policy served as the main line of defence for keeping Holocaust deniers and other fascists off our campuses. And who gets to decide the remit of this? This government who routinely passes legislation that goes against our own equalities legislation without even publishing an equality impact assessment. You would forgive me for not trusting that this government would defend liberation groups even within the law. And why should students trust the same ministers that repeatedly endorsed the booing of England players at the start of the tournament? The racist abuse that's now being directed at them was sanctioned from the very top. Students' unions cannot depend on this government to protect them, and this bill stops them from protecting their members. I've heard so many arguments today about what should be debated and how we should debate things, to expose them. But what these neoliberal, supposedly free speech fanatics seem not to realise is that whilst they're in a room putting together well-informed arguments for fantastic debates, young Black, Muslim, Jewish and LGBTQ people are out on the streets being victimised, verbally abused, physically assaulted, and in some cases murdered. So what exactly is there to debate? What arguments could there possibly be to pose? What they're basically saying is the reason why these people face this discrimination is because they couldn't argue their case well enough. Now, the member for Dudley South said we should hear both sides of any debate. So should we hear a debate that, from paedophile who thinks it's okay to have sex with children? Shall we debate misogynists on whether or not women should have equal rights to men? Because as we've seen with the growing case of incel groups, that is on the rise. And shall we debate people that want an all-white Britain and say that we shouldn't, Black, Asian and minority ethnic people should not have the right to live and worship as they choose, free from discrimination? Free speech is not an absolute right. No rights are absolute. In a society, this isn't the case because all of these comes with a responsibility to others, responsibilities that we legislate for in this House. The right to live free from hate is not up for debate, and it never should be. That's not stifling freedom of speech, it's exercising our human rights and defending the human rights of others. And this bill wants to stop that today. We don't expose fascist beliefs by debating them. We don't give fascists a platform and give more oxygen to their hate. When we do that, we say that their views hold the same value as ours, and that is just not true in a civilized society. And this government says that this bill is about freedom of speech, and we know that it's got nothing to do with that. Thank you.